Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Another look at former unified welterweight champion Keith Thurman's ring return, ending a 3-year layoff with a bout against Jarvis. Former welterweight champion Keith Thurman will end a 3-year layoff with a March 12th junior middleweight fight against Australia's Jarvis in Sydney. It was announced. Thurman's last fight was a decision win over Mario Barrios, the current WBC welterweight title holder, in February of 2022. Thurman, 30-1 with 22 KOs, was slated to return last March versus Australia's Tszyu in Vegas, but withdrew due to a right bicep tear that required surgery. This is going to be one of the greatest comebacks of this year, said Thurman, 36. Time does not take away the ability of champions. Keith probably looks at Brock, who's several years younger, as a journeyman-level opponent, the kind of guy they conjure up for you to get an easy win. That's what he's thinking. It's what's going through his mind, but he's traveling to a foreign land, to a foreign country, for a journeyman-level opponent? A journeyman-level opponent who's worth some money. This will be Thurman's first bout outside of North America, though he did fight in Quebec City in 2019. The plan, sources told ESPN, is to build Thurman's profile in Australia and set him on a collision course for a rescheduled bout with Tszyu, the son of Hall of Famer Tszyu. Tszyu endured a nightmare campaign last year with back-to-back losses. He lost his title via split decision in March to Sebastian Fundoria, who had replaced Thurman on short notice. He was then upset by Bakram Murtazaliev in October via a third-round TKO. This will be Thurman's third fight in the last 6 years. He dropped a split decision to Manny Pacquiao in 2019, the only defeat of his career. Took 2 years off, comes back, decisions Mario Barrios, then takes the subsequent 3 years off. Now he's coming back to fight Jarvis. All part of a master plan to rehabilitate Tszyu and put him in a mega fight. Whether Brock makes it through or Keith makes it through, that's the plan. And it's not the PBC's master plan. It's No Limit Promotions' master plan. Look at the undercard. Do you see any PBC fighters there? Any familiar faces? No. For traveling to Australia, a foreign land, for a fighter who's quite uppity, as American fighters often are. So he's probably being guaranteed $1 or $2 million, just something in that neighborhood. Otherwise, he wouldn't be traveling. Otherwise, he wouldn't be having this fight in Australia. And even if he's been out for the last 3 years, remember this is Jarvis we're talking about. The guy who got stopped just a few seconds into the first round of the Liam Paro fight at 140. Whereas this bout is taking place at 154. Jarvis has since moved up, and I believe he's on a 2-fight winning streak. Trained by the great Jeff Fennick, Australian boxing royalty, which adds to Jarvis's appeal in the land down under. This could be the launch pad for the rest of Jarvis's career, or another banana skin. The respirator for Keith's, keeping it alive. Now, they will probably air this fight here in America via PBC on Amazon, because it does involve at least one PBC fighter in the main event. But make no mistake, this is not a PBC party. This is not a PBC show. Jock will have home field advantage, and whatever consideration they can give him on the scorecards, they likely will. The well must be running dry for Keith's bank account that he would have agreed to this, though at the same time, I do think the Aussies are paying him well enough at least to box someone the level of a Jarvis on pay-per-view. No, you could never bill this as a pay-per-view in America, but I often talk about how the Australian boxing scene is a lot more insulated than in some other markets, and it's insulated in a good way. It doesn't have to be about a belt. You don't necessarily need the biggest of the big names. Somebody like Keith, even at this stage in his career, getting the chance to watch Brock pummel him will draw a crowd. I think it will. Tszyu's rehabilitation. While Keith Thurman does the dance with Brock, Tszyu is rumored to be facing America's own Joey Spencer. April 25th, Joey Spencer. Kid who reminds me of Mark Wahlberg in Four Brothers. What? Joey's not very good if you've seen him, though. Joey Spencer, even for Tszyu, even after 2 back-to-back losses, This should be a winnable fight for Tim. This should be an ideal rebound fight and a good prelude en route to a potential Thurman fight or a Jock Jarvis fight.
That if you can't beat Joey Spencer,
maybe it's time you hang him up. Maybe last year took too much out of you. If you can't beat this guy, this one.
get it together, Timmy.
I did expect him to maybe face somebody more local in his comeback fight, like, say, Andre Mikhailiovic or Michael Zarafa. He's fighting Joey Spencer. That's the same level of opponent as they are, as far as I'm concerned. After what was a terrible 2024, it looks like Timmy might be able to get himself back in the winner's bracket in 2025. I do like his chances against Joey, and I do like his chances against either Keith Thurman or Brock Jarvis. Either one.
I give him good odds against all three. They got to step him up gradually. Let him remind himself of what he can do. Let him feel what it feels like to win again.
Men's super middleweight news. His Excellency, Mr. Turkey LL Sheikh, took to his social media to officially announce the legend Scull Alvarez Canelo will fight William Scull in an undisputed fight in Riyadh on the 3rd of May. If he wins the fight in September, he will be undisputed again. It was just the other day I said that Canelo should fight William, not just because it'll give him a chance to be a two-time undisputed champion at that same weight, but also because he's a boxer, he's a mover, he's a jabber, and that's what you're about to face in Terence Crawford. Thus, William Scull would be adequate preparation for Terence in September. Granted that William don't compete on the same level as Terence Crawford. He is in no way, shape, or form as good a boxer as Terence Crawford. He is a bona fide super middleweight.
He is a bigger, younger man than Terence Crawford. If you can deal with him, theoretically at least, you can deal with Terence.
Terence, who will sit out the majority of this year until September, until such a time as he is so confronted with Canelo Alvarez, rather, until such a time as he confronts him. I don't know how good or bad that idea is. On one end, you don't want to jeopardize the Canelo fight, taking on fights in between, but on the other end, you will have been out for a year. Is Canelo Alvarez the kind of guy you want to shake off ring rust with?
Hey.
Fighting William Scull will allow Canelo Alvarez to be once again crowned this division's undisputed champion, and that's what he will be going into the Terence Crawford fight, making it a battle of undisputed champions.
If Terence wins.
By some miracle, he pulls this off. That will be an unprecedented achievement, to have been undisputed at 140, 147, then potentially 168. You can't talk it down. You can't downplay it. Jumping up 2 weight classes like this, it would be monumental.
Now, Terence is currently WBA champion at 154. But what all of this heralds is the end of that campaign, and he likely will vacate the WBA title as a result. So who will it go to?
It's worth noting that former undisputed junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo is registered as that division's champion in recess. In a situation where Terence drops the belt, it could go to him if Jermell can still get down there. I don't know that he can. It's been some time since he made 154.
3 years.
It's been roughly 3 years since Jermell Charlo made that weight for what was the Brian Castano rematch in May of 2022. 3 years since he made that weight, and over a year since he had a fight. His last fight was the Canelo fight at 168 in September of 2023.
This is the perfect segue for Jermell to reintegrate himself into the junior middleweight division if he actually can still make junior middleweight. If he can get his old belt back.
And that could theoretically set up an all-PBC unification match with Sebastian Fundora. Germany's own Abbas Aru is ranked at number 1. Cuba's own Yoenis Tellez is ranked at number 2. Those guys are nobodies. But the plan is underway. Terence Crawford is not staying at junior middleweight. It's only a matter of time before he drops the WBA title, and that's the lay of the land.
At 154.
At 168, Canelo will be taking on William Scull. Is William Scull a threat to the Crawford fight? Does facing him beforehand jeopardize it?
Not based on what I've seen.
Cuban fighters really do make great amateurs. The Cuban boxing scene have really mastered the art of the 3-round fight in the Emmys. But this is the pros. William Scull will not be the first Cuban fighter that Canelo Alvarez has faced. He already faced a better one, I think a more proven one, in Erislandy Lara. Many years ago at junior middleweight, what was a high-risk, low-reward opponent at the time in a fight that is often referenced by Canelo's detractors as a means to disparage him because he didn't look great in that fight. No, he didn't. But he was a much younger fighter then than he is now, and he has seen that base style a good number of times since then. He's learned to deal with it.
If you can remember, at 154, Canelo was more of a boxer-puncher and a counter-puncher.
Fighters who use that base style often struggle with pure boxers and movers and jabbers, and Canelo did struggle. It's not that he didn't, it's that a lot has happened since then.
That was a long time ago.
11 years and 20 fights ago, to be exact. 11 years and 20 fights later, Canelo Alvarez has come up against that base style in different fighters, and he's improved. He got better. He knows.
Well, he knows how to deal with that now.
Silly to gauge Canelo Alvarez's abilities as a fighter based on a fight from 11 years ago.
Oh, you want to just move around and jab and use the ring? That's what Jermell Charlo did. That's what Caleb Plant did. It didn't work for them.
And it didn't work for Billy Joe. I don't think it's going to work for William Scull. 32 years old, IBF champion, unbeaten. Another champion to add to the list. Trout, Cotto, Golovkin, Jacobs,
Kova,
Callum Smith, Liam Smith, Billy Joe,
Caleb Plant.
That's 9 reigning world champions Canelo Alvarez took belts from. 9. William Scull will make 10.
The 10th reigning champion Canelo Alvarez will have taken a belt from.
Legacy.
Talk about a case of being in the right place at the right time. William Scull is only here because he did what he had to do to climb up the IBF's rank standings, become a mandatory, subsequently become a champion.
At least long enough to land a Canelo Alvarez fight. David Benavidez could learn a lot from William Scull. William didn't eat his belt away or sniff his belt away like David Benavidez did, still crying that he doesn't seem to be in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight. Why would he be?
I don't understand.
32 years old, 2 years younger than Canelo Alvarez in what is the biggest fight of his career.
I want to say that William got lucky, but when you do what you have to do, is that really luck?
Luck in and of itself is best described as when preparation meets opportunity, and if nothing else, William was prepared. He's got the hardware.
What David didn't have, what David didn't bother to keep.
You expect me to feel sorry for him? You snooze, you lose, my friend.
But hey, this fight's going down in Saudi, and you're a Vegas fighter anyway, aren't you?
That's what you said after the Morel fight.
Oh, Canelo, you puta.
And this tuber, I just fight real fighters.
Time to expose them. So we had a signed contract to fight. Here you can see Canelo's signature and my signature to the right. Claiming he's not fighting YouTubers. Bullshit. Look at the poster. We were announcing Tuesday, February 11th. Claiming he fights real fighters, but he's fighting Crawford, a 135-pound fighter, and running from a real fighter like David Benavidez, you bitch. The truth is you can be bought. You're a money-hungry squirrel chasing your next nut. The truth is these sports-washing shady characters are paying you hundreds of millions of dollars to stop our fight from happening because they couldn't fathom the fact that they can't create a bigger fight than me and you. Al Heyman has made you hundreds of millions of dollars and you turned your back on him for this check. Disloyal. And you were begging to do this fight on pay-per-view. But I have loyalty. Loyalty to Netflix, doing the biggest numbers. And you call me a YouTuber, but you've never had a boxing match as big as mine. Remember you told my team that your daughter came home and asked if you were fighting Jake Paul? She was all excited. You said that was the first time your daughter's ever asked you about a fight. And you're screwing over all your Mexican fans by doing your fights in Saudi. It just shows what type of person you are. And I promise you one thing, Canelo. Any fight that you do this year, mine will be bigger. So go fuck off to your boss, you Ring Magazine employee, you pink and orange bitch. And oh, fix that herpy on your lip, you dirty puta.
Jake's contemporary, fellow social media influencer KSI, reacted to Jake's video by saying it's literally a confidentiality agreement, which you've now exposed, you idiot. Who's gonna fight you now, buddy? Go remind Netflix that I've been ready to fight you. I'll be free after I KO Dylan Dennis March 29th. And being honest with you, Jake kinda needs that fight with KSI. That's the only fight that's more or less on par in terms of size and scale and audience, because both Jake and KSI have a massive audience, a massive following, even if they're not Conventional boxing fans, they don't have to be. All the same, they've amassed a huge following between them, and a fight between them would be
He
big.
needs a big fight to deliver to Netflix because they won't settle for the run-of-the-mill stuff. I don't think. A platform that size? No.
Jake responded to KSI by saying, I know none of y'all have ever had a fight or ever signed a contract, but you sign an LOI, letter of intent, and confidentiality agreement with the person you're fighting, and then you shop that agreement to different media partners and platforms. Once you negotiate with the platforms, you then sign the full-length contract. Peasants.
You're still giving it away that the fight wasn't finalized, that the deal wasn't done.
If it were, Canelo Alvarez absconding and entering into a new deal would constitute a breach, at which point you'd be able to take him to court, which you're not doing. You're just whining on social media because you needed this fight. Jake Paul added, no matter how much money they spend, they won't be able to make a bigger fight than me and Canelito. That irked them to the core. And don't say Conor, he's more washed than a laundromat. Dummies could have made Canelo's September fight so much bigger by letting us do our thing and me taking his names to the masses. But they knew I was going to KO his little ass.
The same tired old shtick won't work, Jake. The way you troll everybody else, nobody believes you were going to KO Canelo because you couldn't KO a senior citizen and Mike Tyson. You couldn't KO Tommy Fury.
You weren't going to KO Canelo, and nobody believes that. What people believe is you were going to get KO'd. What people believe is you got played. You got taken for a ride. The only reason Canelo gave you the time of day was as a leverage play to get a better deal from Turkey.
Did he?
Yes, he managed to turn a 3-fight deal that starts in September to a 4-fight deal that starts in May. For a lot of money. And the more you carry on social media about it, the more you give it away that you're kind of green. You're kind of green in the sport because fights fall apart. Fights fall apart all the time at every level of boxing. Prospect level, contender level, champion level, and even on this scale, fights fall apart. It happens. That's the first thing. The second thing,
What you're giving away.
you needed this. Apparently you needed this more than Canelo. In corporate finance, we have an old saying, never walk into a deal you're not ready to walk away from. Canelo was ready and willing to walk away.
Why are you mad?
That's why. Carrying on social media about it only gives it away he's hard to replace. Now it's going to be difficult for you to find somebody to replace him with. Who are you going to fight?
It's nothing against Jake. I have nothing against him. I'm just saying, it looks like he got played.
He outdid himself with the Mike Tyson fight, and the people at Netflix are likely expecting him to deliver them another big one, but that's really not easy to do. Your best bet was a Canelo Alvarez, I think. Your second best bet would be finally fighting KSI.
If they can make that happen.
He uploaded another video trolling Canelo Alvarez, but good luck turning his fans against him. Enough people have tried.
It didn't work for them. It's not going to work for you.
Just looks like they took him for a ride and now he's mad.